Okay. So, welcome everybody to day two of our daily meditations with Sangha Live. I'm Miles Kessler. I'm going to be, we started yesterday, but I'm going to be leading the daily meditations this week. I'm both a meditation teacher and an Aikido teacher. I have kind of dual lineage in the Mahasi tradition of mindfulness meditation, and also in the Wama tradition of Aikido. I spent probably 16 years of my life, 8 years living in Japan studying Aikido, and another 8 years dedicating my winters to extended retreats and in Burma, and mostly Burma, but also Nepal, um, to practice, to meditate like we're doing here. And this week's theme that I've invited you all to join me in is meditation in a time of crisis. We could also say Dharma in a time of crisis. I live in Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm American originally, but I've been living here 16 years. And as happens periodically in this part of the world, we are in the midst of another explosion, crisis, this time between, I should say once again, between Israel and Hamas. And even though it's kind of local, regional, this one was so big and continues to be so big that it's threatening to spill out into a global conflict. And in fact, um, it's almost like this crisis is being recapitulated throughout the world. In many places, we're seeing it again and again and again. This is a meditation meeting. This is not a discussion about the situation, although those discussions are um, those discussions, as long as they're held with wisdom, are absolutely needed to somehow evolve, heal, and find a solution to the current crisis. But that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're doing. We're actually here to look at our own meditation practice. Look at how we relate to crises. How we not just relate to crises in the world, but how we relate to crises within ourselves. And like I said yesterday, the way that we respond and or react in the midst of a crisis. When I say react, I mean fight, flight, freeze. When all of our evolutionarily, biologically conditioned bells and whistles and alarms are going off in our system, and we are under the threat of an amygdala hijack, which just perpetuates the violence that we inflict upon each other, with which just perpetuates the endless cycles of dukkha, the endless cycles of suffering. If we have any hope in evolving humanity forward, we have to have the capacity, that internal capacity, to hold a crisis with awareness. And I don't mean hold by the throat, I mean contain a crisis. Oh boy. Well, Sheila, that's quite a post there. So let me just, so if we could refrain from using the chat for our personal platforms today, Sheila, with all the love and respect, we're here to practice. So forgive me for getting sidetracked here. Sheila, I mean, I haven't read it. I kind of see a bit of what you're saying there, but and you and I may or may not agree. But is that the context that we want to bring here right now? And validate. All good what you're saying. Again, I may or may not agree. All good what you're saying. But is this the context for that? Like I was saying, are we being driven are we getting hijacked by our amygdalas in this present moment? Or are we creating a container of mindfulness where we're actually in a place where we can respond and we have freedom of choice? That's all I'm saying. I have my views and whatever on this situation as well. I'm heartbroken. As I said yesterday, I'm an open wound as much as anybody else is. But I would invite all of us here to find a context where we can be with each other. Because at the end of the day, my dear Sheila, and everybody else who has probably strong opinions about this, I do too. At the end of the day, when all the dust settles, when we work out all these things that we don't, or we're kind of at each other's throats endlessly, at the end of the day, we all are going to have to do some serious, serious healing, some serious, serious trauma work. So my question to you, my question to myself, my question to all of us here is, are we creating a container for that? Or are we recapitulating the cycles, the endless cycles of human conditioning? That's all I'm saying. In another context, I would pick up the gauntlet and we could have a discussion, but not this. This is not the context for today. So I'm inviting everybody to join me in this context today. Yesterday, I spoke with Martin. Martin and I are friends, and he was reflecting, how first, he was reflecting how he's feeling about the situation, and like I said before, it's touching everybody. But also how much he appreciated that we're bringing this current crisis in a Dharma context, at this moment, because that's what we need. That's what you and I are practicing for. And when it comes to the world of action, you might take your Dharma and act in a specific way. All of us will choose to do that or not to do that, either way. But it's coming from a Dharma's context where we can trust. What is a Dharma context? The word Dharma means ultimate reality, the absolute truth, not the relative truth. The absolute truth, not an absolute truth that's relative. Or the chosen people. That's quite an absolute statement, but it doesn't take much to think to know that that's relative. The absolute truth can only be understood through our introspection. The absolute truth can only be understood. The absolute truth can only be understood, can only be touched, can only be seen, can only be experienced through the practice of mindfulness-based meditation. I'm sure there's other spiritual traditions that are also accessing it in their way, but mindfulness is the key. Mindfulness develops wisdom. Mindfulness is a path of wisdom. And the absolute truth, not the Christian truth or the Jewish truth or the Muslim truth or whatever, the absolute truth, let me just close. Well, I can't do that. The absolute truth fundamentally is the recognition of non-self. So no matter what oppression we're seeing in the world today, this is important, no matter what impression, whether it's gender or, the battle of the sexes or political, right, left, Israel, Palestine, oh my God, it's so much. The fundamental, the ultimate oppression of Dharma, the Dharma is the endless grasping and clinging nature of our minds. Grasping, clinging nature of our minds is the birth of identity. And that birth of identity, that grasping, clinging nature of the mind, is what leads us to holy wars, is what leads us to identification, is what leads us to inflicting endless rounds of violence, perpetuating endless rounds of violence and harm and suffering upon each other. Seeing into the nature of that is why we're here today. So now I'm going to shift to practice. When we sit down to meditate and we activate mindfulness meditation, that triggers off a process where down this path a little ways, we begin to see it directly. we begin to see it experientially. We begin to see it phenomenologically, directly in our experience. We begin to see the truth of non-self. Let me just turn this off for a second. We begin to see the truth of non-self. We begin to see directly in our own experience anatta, non-self, phenomenologically. In order to see anatta, in order to kind of move through this, we must first directly open up and accept, first see and accept the truth of dukkha. Anatta is on the other side of dukkha. Just like the 5 stages of grieving, acceptance, that mature stage of acceptance where we finally mature through the path and process of grieving. The stage before that is the dark night of the soul. The stage before that is depression. Before we see anatta, whether it's a small cycle or a grand cycle, before we see anatta, the truth of non-self, we have to see deeply into dukkha. That happens through a practice of suffering, of the recognition of dukkha. The recognition of dukkha requires us to practice acceptance. So right now, if you look into your system, your mind, body, system, it's very edgy for me right now. Perhaps it is for you too. Perhaps you're picking up mine. Who knows? Perhaps you're picking up Sheila's. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's coming up. It's coming up in this present moment. What's your relationship to that? Now, God bless us all, because we all can kind of go off in 1,000 different directions with that inner edginess, with that inner crisis. But for men and women and people of the Dharma, our work, first and foremost, is to open up and accept that. That is the fundamental practice. Only through the practice of acceptance can we then come to the practice of letting go. Only through the practice of letting go can we then come to the practice of realization, where we see these things directly and it hits us. We get it once and for all. Only through the practice of realization can we then kind of continue to develop the wisdom that's arising. So to see Dhamma, to see the ultimate reality, the Buddha said, when you're seeing the Dharma, you're seeing me. When you're seeing the Dharma, you're seeing me. This is not the Buddha. What we read in the pages of a book is not the Buddha. Even if he was right in front of us, it's not the Buddha. That's what he said. He said, don't look at me. Only when you see the Dharma do you understand me. What is the Dharma? The realization of non-self. How do we come to the realization of non-self? Through a repeated practice of acceptance of the dukkha that's arising in our system. When we're doing our meditation or when we're doing our mindfulness practice. How do we come to that practice? Only by seeing the first of the 3 universal characteristics of anatta, of anicca, change. Crisis begins when status quo changes. That change, directly observing that, accepting that change, will lead us into more dukkha. The realization, or the direct experience of dukkha, more or less. You just have to sit for a few minutes to realize, dukkha is kind of happening, coming and going. Only through the complete embracing of dukkha that's arising in our system, only through that will it lead us to anatta, non-self. And only when we have the direct experience of anatta, non-self, does letting go happen. So, let's meditate with that. And in this meditation, remember, there is a part of our mind, that's what we're developing here, that can differentiate from experience. So whatever bells and whistles, whatever alarms are going off in your system now, whatever alarms are going off in my system now, whatever alarms are going off in Sheila's system now, if we're honest with ourselves, I'm honest right now. It's on the edge for me. It's edgy. I know through my own practice that I have the capacity. It's called mindfulness, to differentiate from it and observe it. not to run away from it, not to deny it, not to escape it, but to differentiate and observe. That is the meditative mind. That is the space that creates the process of transformation. We know where the process of blame leads us. Endless rounds of suffering, endless rounds of perpetuation of pain and sorrow and hatred upon each other. We know that. When we differentiate and observe our experience, no matter how raw it is, that begins the process of transformation. That begins the process, in this case, of healing. And only when we have kind of evolved through that and some wisdom is awakening in our mind, only then can we really have an effect on what's going on here. My teacher, Saryu Upandita, this is maybe even a perfect example, a perfect time to bring this example. On retreats, I sat with him for 2 years worth of silent retreats, and he would give regular Dharma talks to the foreigners. He'd give Dharma talks and never translate, but he would also take the foreign group and give us talks separately. And more than once, I heard, people would come and say, yeah, my family's saying I'm just self-centered. I'm just paying attention to myself. I'm not doing anything in the world. And he would often give this comparison of two men walking down the road back in the day, and they fell into quicksand. Got the picture? The quicksand. And you could even say right now that we are all in quicksand. And guess what? We're going down. We're going down. It's undeniable. We're going down. Slowly. A slow catastrophe happening in front of our own eyes. One man looks at the other man and says, hey, let's help each other get out of this. Let's help each other get out of this. The second man says, no, I'm going to work on getting out of this myself first. Because only then can I truly, when I am liberated, when I'm free from this kind of existential sinking down, when I'm free, only then can I turn around and truly help others. Only then can I truly help you get out. This meeting, what we're doing here, we're working on getting out of the quicksand ourselves. How are we doing that? Setting up the capacity to differentiate our awareness and be mindful of whatever's arising in our experience, of the good, of the bad, and of the ugly. So please join me for the next, let's say, 25 minutes of mindfulness meditation. Finding a comfortable position. Let's all do a quick check-in rather than the body or a check-in on your sensations, etc. Let's do a check-in on our nervous system. What's happening in the nervous system right now? What are you able to be mindful of in your mind-body nervous system? And as you check in with your nervous system, what is already in the throes of crisis? What is being triggered? What is being sneaking in to hijack our amygdalas? Can we differentiate our awareness and be aware of that? Accept it. Allow it to be. Allow it to process. Allow that fire to burn with mindfulness. And maybe the intensity, the burning will intensify to the point where it begins to turn around, and that karma in this moment begins to defuel. And the intensity relaxes. The dukkha peaks, and we're right there with it. And as it rises, it so subsides. And we're stabilizing our mindfulness. We're stabilizing our differentiated awareness. We are being in awareness, and we are being with what's arising. We are being with a triggered nervous system. We are being with a relaxed nervous system. We are being with regulation, not that we do by counting to 10 and breathing, which is also very good and healthy, but simply by bringing to bear our mindfulness, bringing to bear our meditative mind that is open in radical acceptance, surrendered, and at the same time holding center and resting in our body, resting in our breath, seeing the Dharma. As we notice the process of change, know that you are seeing the Dharma of anicca, of impermanence. As you are noticing the process of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, pain, suffering, know that you are seeing the truth, the first noble truth of dukkha, of unsatisfactoriness. This is our path forward. And should your practice evolve or advance to the point where suddenly it releases, it relaxes, it's gone, and you are free in a moment of effortless, choiceless awareness, know that you are seeing the Dhamma. You are seeing the universal truth of anatta, non-self. Anchoring in the breath, anchoring in the body, anchoring in the moment. With each breath, in each moment, moment by moment, breath by breath. And bringing your mindfulness back to the body, feel the body. Bring your mindfulness to the mind and know your mental state. And bring your mindfulness to your nervous system, whatever that means for you. And feel with differentiated awareness, feel your nervous system. And I suggest we finish today's meditation with a little bit of metta. First, repeating the phrase to yourself, may I be free from physical harm. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be well and happy. And now let's radiate metta to this region. May the people of Israel and Palestine be free from physical harm. May the people of Israel and Palestine be free from mental suffering. May the people of Israel and Palestine be well and happy. And now opening our metta, opening our hearts to all beings. May all beings be free from physical harm. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be well and happy. Feel the space on the inside. And as you slowly open your eyes, coming out of the meditation, feel the space on the outside. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left for questions, but before we go into the questions or comments, Faith asked me to remind everybody that these sessions are at Sangha Live are Dharma based, and you get to see what's the front stage, but a lot of stuff is happening behind stage, and I get to see a little bit of that. So I know that Faith and Jorge and all the people at Sangha Live are doing a lot of work to create this beautiful virtual Sangha for all of you. If you want to support that, support the Dharma supports us. If you want to support that, you can find a donation button on the website, sanghalive.com. Second, I'm going to open up for questions, and I'd just like to remind everybody that these are wicked problems. My teacher Upandita used to say that practicing meditation in Israel or teaching meditation in Israel is like digging a well in the middle of a forest fire. Oh my God, it's like our practice right now as we can see, it's very edgy for all of us. It's like digging a well in the middle of a forest fire. When we reach the source, when we reach the Dharma, the universal truth of emptiness, of non-self, of dukkha, of anatta, of anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self, when we reach nibbana, the ultimate reality, then we understand what the pure liquid is. It's in moments like this that we can shift. That's our practice. The digging is our practice. But if we're not careful, we shift into the fire. Sangha Live, this Sangha space, is a delicate, precious container. We want to preserve it. We're practicing digging the well. Or like Martin Luther King said, are we going to move towards chaos? Or are we going to move towards community? So if you want to write your questions, that'd be great. Or if somebody wants to come on stage, including Sheila, if you want to come on stage, raise your hand and I will do my best to bring you up. Any questions? Love my t-shirt. Very appropriate. It was kind of coincidental. Thank you, Miles, for this challenging practice time of crisis. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful. Anybody, are there any questions? Once again, I'd be happy to invite Sheila on stage if she wants to share, but I would ask you, if you do, Sheila, to, rather than, I'm kind of scanning a little bit what you wrote. That's more the chaos. We can go back and forth on that. But to really have conversations like this, it's very important that the proper container, in a Dhamma sense, in a Sangha sense, that the proper container is preserved and held in good faith. That we are here, Sangha, we are here for each other, fundamentally. We, this group, brothers and sisters, we're here for each other. And also, we're here to listen deeply and share from the heart. Henry has a question. Thank you, Henry. Henry says, how do I carry these feelings and awareness off the cushion? Yeah, well, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Every time we sit down and open up our mindfulness, even though it doesn't seem like it, it's cultivating. And there's a beautiful passage from the Dhammapada, from the Buddha, where he says that one moment of mindfulness is more valuable than an hour of not being mindful. Okay, now a moment is like a split second. It's not a second. He said moment of mindfulness is like it has more value than an hour of mindfulness. That means of hour 59 minutes and 59 minutes and 59 seconds of not being mindful is just ignorance. That we're just not present in the present moment. 1 second, 1 moment of being mindful has more value. He wanted to say that one moment of mindfulness has more value than a day without being mindful. 1 moment of mindfulness has more value than a year of not being mindful. 1 moment of mindfulness has more value. Put a moment of mindfulness on the scale over here, and you put 10 years of not being mindfulness on the scale over here, it has more value. He went on to say it has more value than 1,000 years, 100 years. It has more value than 1,000 years. It has more value than 10,000 years. It has more value than 10,000 lifetimes of not being mindful. Do not underestimate the power of 1 moment of mindfulness. It is incrementally developing, and at a certain point it compounds. And the reason it has more value is because transformation, liberation, healing only happens in the present moment. It doesn't happen in the past. It doesn't happen in the future. It doesn't happen when our mind is in the future. It doesn't happen when our mind is in the past. So practice, 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 and don't underestimate the power of these moments that you're able to cultivate mindfulness. Perhaps we're seeing a third and fourth arrows now. as with the second one. So I guess you're talking about the two arrows, Anthea. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. It could be, yeah, sure. But the first arrow is the direct suffering we receive, and the second arrow, and these are Buddhist metaphors, by the way. The Buddha talked about it. We get hit by an arrow, we suffer any type of pain or suffering we experience in life. The second arrow is that repeated kind of, going around in our minds, the repeated grasping and clinging of the mind that we inflict upon ourselves and then on each other. Nina says, thank you, Miles, for nobly embodying the Dharma. Yeah, you're welcome, but okay. I don't feel so successful sometimes. Abigail has a question. I am personally involved in different conflict, which is affecting me, people I love, and people. Just checking the time. And people I am closely involved with. My tradition, Quakers, nice, have the idea of holding the light. Beautiful. Thinking of the others with love. Beautiful. Will you hold me in the light? Is there a Buddhist practice like this? Well, metta. What we did at the end of practice, Abigail, is metta, where we radiate loving kindness first to ourselves. And one of the ways of doing metta, there's a few different ways, like I did before. But one of the ways is that we systematically first radiate to ourselves, then radiate to our loved ones, then radiate to a neutral person, and then radiate, in the good Quaker tradition, radiate to our so-called enemies that we actually wish, the people that we have opposed, that we have pushed out of our heart. Can anybody relate right now? Anybody pushed out of your heart in this moment? Probably. It's a good chance. We wish them that they're free from physical harm. We wish that they're free from mental suffering, and we wish them to be well and happy. So I hope that's helpful. We got a few more minutes. Thank you, Miles. Faith, have to leave. Bye-bye. Jane has a reflection. The Dharma has been there through all of mankind's suffering. May we be may we be singed, nice, by the fire, but the waters of absolute truth are always available to cool and quench the fire. Amen, sister. Amen. Yeah, so thank you all for holding the space together here. And Sheila, also thank you. I was going to talk about something completely different today, and for some reason, you felt compelled. By the way, I do appreciate your energy. I do appreciate that you're a powerful advocate for the Palestinian people. God knows they need them right now. But the question is always going to be, are we moving towards chaos or are we moving towards community? And I'm not assuming you're doing one or the other. Patricia says, thank you, dear Miles, for being here and guiding us to practice metta, differentiated awareness, kind awareness towards the nervous system. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess we can finish off here today, everybody. And remember, this is teaching of mine from Sadhu Pandita. Practicing meditation in a time of crisis is like digging a well in the middle of a forest fire. And the world is on fire. We didn't start the fire, but the world's been burning since the world's been turning, to quote the wisdom of Billy Joel. The world's been burning since the world's been turning. Are we adding to the fire, or are we practicing for the pure, nourishing, healing liquid? Are we moving towards more chaos, or are we moving towards community? With that, I want to thank everybody. Remember, you can donate to these sessions on the Sangha Live website. And with that, I want to wish everybody that we're able to deepen our practice in the metaphorical digging of the well, and that we get singed by the fires, as one of the members said, and that we find our way forward towards community. And with that, I want to wish you all a great week of practice. Tomorrow, I'll be joining us. We're going to be looking at what it means to be a spiritual warrior. How perfect. So with that, I want to wish you all a great week of practice, and may your practice lead you forward. May our practice lead us forward, forever and always forward. on the path of Dharma. Thank you, everybody.